And thanks so much. We want to talk about all of this even further with our friend at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, retired Rear Admiral Mark Montgomery. He joins us now. Sir, thanks for being with us. I know you've been following this crisis very closely. You know, my first question to you is, you take the news from last week. Now, former Haitian Prime Minister Ariel Henry, he was stranded in Puerto Rico. He couldn't get back to Port-au-Prince because the airport there was too dangerous to land. Well, there today, State Department chartered flight got off the ground. It was delayed, but it was flown to Florida with 14 stranded Americans. Is that an indication of maybe the violence is abating somewhat or subsiding, or no?
Well, thank you for having me. And I'm not sure it is. I think that there's two different things in play here. One was a desire by the gang leaders to not have the prime minister come back, which put a lot more pressure on the airport. And what we're seeing now is that, now that he's resigned, they're more into, conducting their normal criminal behavior and creating kind of discontent gradually on, generally on the streets. And that's allowed the airport to operate a little bit more. These flights have gotten out, both helicopter flights and fixed wing flights. But it has been fairly limited. We're talking about, less than 100 people through those two mechanisms over the last few days.
And of course, according to Brian Yanes's reporting there in the Dominican Republic, a lot of these stranded Americans made it across the border there. I mean, that should be much easier time, I would imagine, to get back to the U.S. from there.
You're right. There's two ways into the Dominican Republic. One would be a ground, through vehicles to go through the border. There's a little treacherous there in the length of time that you're exposed and things, to potential criminal behavior. And then there have been some helicopter lifts out of Haiti in, a short ride into the Dominican Republic. So those are the two other ways. And as he mentioned, there's probably about 1,000 more people who fairly urgently want to be withdrawn either by helicopter, fixed wing aircraft, or potentially a vehicle.
Yeah, and on the outset of this, I was getting a lot of questions about, would the U.S. send troops on the ground? Viewers were asking me about it, but we are sending some type of special team to, secure our embassies and diplomatic missions there. Are we not? And if you could maybe kind of explain the scope of that presence.
So I think there's three different things we could do. One's what's happened already, which is that there's been an increase, special Marine Corps team, special military team came in to help reinforce the Marines who protect the embassy. They bring them vehicles that they don't normally have, and extra firearms and personnel, and that strengthens our. That allows us to maintain the the diplomatic mission. Consular activities are stopped. Non-essential personnel have been sent out. However, we can maintain a minimum bare bones presence secured by the Marines. That's number one. Number two, which hasn't happened yet, is you can put a military plug into the airport, where you secure the airport and you allow aircraft in and out. If you ask me, that's something that probably should have happened in the last 48 hours. It allows us to secure the airport quickly, to allow U.S. and other nations, international relief aircraft in to both, to remove people and to bring in goods in a secure, trusted manner. And third, there's the potential for a much larger, flow of forces in. No one's arguing for that, but I would have said that's the third one. So three different levels there, and so far we've just done securing the embassy.
We've been talking to, experts like yourself for the last 2 weeks, and, it seems like the United States is somewhat hamstrung about stemming the violence until Haiti gets a government up and running. I mean, civil society breaks down without order. There is no functioning kind of structure there as far as the government is concerned in the wake of the assassination of their president back in July of 2021 here. Is that the key to getting all of this under control? Because the gangs have filled that void.
You're exactly right. So, two things. One, I will say we've been watching it for 2 weeks, and it's been like this slow motion train wreck, for withdrawing our personnel. Honestly, and you can hear the frustration in the Southern Command Commander General Laura Richardson has spoken a few times and been more forward-leaning than the administration, which probably tells you that in her internal communication, she's much more forward-leaning, that, hey, we ought to get something in here so we can at least get the Americans out safely in a controlled manner. That's one issue. The second issue is the one you referred to, which is more generally the stability of the country. And you're right, we would like to have a partner to work with. And I'll tell you, Jimmy Chalazier, Barbecue, the gang leader, is not who we would be working with, right?
Sure.
And in any case, he flourishes in instability. So we are looking for stability and a partner. And I think we would want that preferably before we entered. And I think, there's going to be a lot of hesitation on any U.S. forces getting involved in this, other than the Marines at the embassy and potentially a small plug at an airport to allow for rapid entry and departure of materials and stranded personnel.
When you talk about the promulgation of gangs in situations like this when order does break down, I'm just kind of thinking of how they organize, how they finance themselves, other than bribery and extortion amongst, their fellow Haitians. How do they kind of maintain and wield power? I mean, is there any way that they can be undercut in any capacity in order for something more traditional, so to speak, to fill the vacuum?
So, there's about 200 gangs, probably 20 big ones, and they're affiliated with each other on occasion. They rule through weapons, right? They have a significant amount of weapons, and they have training. Many of them are former police and army. And they, they make money the old-fashioned way criminals make money, as you mentioned, extortion and thievery. Some of it's at the locals, although there's not a lot of opportunity there. More of it is of the port facilities, aviation, the incoming, supply and relief assistance that's been coming into Haiti over the last 2 to 3 years. So, unfortunately, they thrive in instability, and they're not going to do much to allow for stability to take hold in Haiti unless they're pushed aside.
Haiti over the past generation, you could argue, has been through these fits and starts of, convulsions of, violence and natural disasters and, civil unrest, so to speak. And, that is the acknowledgement when we cover this story you have to kind of reckon with, is that, Haiti has been through a lot. But as far as the United States' role, and as far as kind of the Haitian people, are they open to more of an interventionist take, so to speak, not just from the United States, but someone out there who can get things under control? Or are they going this alone?
Well, they do have a hard history of colonialism by the French.
Yeah.
And a terrible period of internal dictatorship by the Duvaliers. I think it's generous to say it's only one generation of recent instability. I'll go back maybe two and a half generations. So because of that, I think it's hard. I think they want stability, though. I think they need stability. They need food distribution. They need water and fuel distribution, and they need transportation. And to do that sort of things, they may need an outside force. And I know there's not an appetite for it in the United States broadly and in the Biden administration specifically. So we'll be looking for other outsiders, other international leadership to kind of head that up. But, we would probably provide a lot of logistic support to it based on our geographic proximity and our ownership of most of the world's high quality, military logistics. So, the short answer is I think at this point, they need it. And the United States is probably going to have to be part of it.
But there is talk of this, Kenyan police force that was UN approved. It kind of got, hamstrung by some of the Kenyan courts there to, I think it was like 1,000 of them, to travel to Haiti for peacekeeping operations to kind of patrol the streets. So I'm not entirely sure, what the Kenyan-Haitian relationship or how that came about. But something like that, this is not Kenyan soldiers of the Kenyan army. This is just Kenyan law enforcement. Do you foresee something like that taking place with kind of a multinational front here?
I think that was potentially a good idea about 3 to 6 months ago. I think at this point we're past 1,000 troops, law enforcement personnel from another country enforcing the peace in this country. It would be great risk to their own lives. So I think we're past that. I think it's something that's larger, more forceful and equipped in nature, and then logistically backed up by someone who can do logistics.
All right. Retired Rear Admiral Montgomery, we do appreciate your time, your expertise, and your insight on this Wednesday night. We'll talk soon. Thanks so much.